And
Well, maybe
now
we could
that
justify how
Mr.
much.
Lehan has showed up.
Yeah,
It
was
here,
I was just in the hall.
You'll see that
I got
that's
stuck in
there.
All right, yep.
That might be helpful.
Okay, first order of business, take a minute to read the minutes from the last meeting, Jim. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Don't forget to, we just need to announce that this meeting is being video and audio recorded.
We have to announce that?
You do.
Okay, all
We've
right.
done that.
We just
All
did
right,
it.
we just did it, all right. So I need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 25th, 2016 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for January 25th.
Okay.
Second.
And any discussion or changes? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, Brian, we've had a few meetings and with Andrew since then, and why don't you give us an update?
Well, since January 25th, we've made some progress on the project, and I think I first have to start off the meeting by apologizing for maybe statements that I had made at the January 25th meeting, that I think when I was here on January 25th, we were excited about the project starting and the funding being authorized, but I don't think I was completely up to speed on some of the answers that you were looking for at that time. And I think some of the statements I might have made have brought the project going in the wrong direction. But I'm here to report today that we've made progress since January 25th, and the progress that we've made on the projects have been more on the financial side of the project than on the plans and plan development side of the project. In January 25th, we were concerned about the budget. We were concerned about allocations of funds between police department and fire department. We have gone back and done a lot of research on the projects and project scope, and also had conversations with department heads, conversations with DPW, and have distributed a new project budget worksheet dated February 22nd, 2016, which you should all have a copy of. And while I do have plans that we can go through, the plan development, as far as I'm concerned, has maintained the projects the way you had originally approved the projects. What the budget does is now allocates appropriate funds to get the projects completed. And starting with the fire department is now funded for new addition, renovations of the existing building, and site work costs. And we're establishing a hard cost budget of $4.8 million allocated to the fire department. We believe that answers and addresses the renovations that were anticipated in the existing building. We've gone back and looked at roof area, and there was discussions about roof replacement. And the existing fire station has two types of roofs on that building. One's a flat roof section, which we call it flat, but it actually tapers to drains, but it's in all intents and purposes, it's a flat roof. And then there's another portion of the building which is asphalt shingles, which has slope to it, and so it drains off of asphalt shingles. We find that the asphalt shingle section of the building is relatively new and is not in need of immediate replacement or immediate attention, whereas the flat roof section is. Seeing that we are replacing mechanicals in the building, we would be addressing that flat roof section replacement because there's new and replaced mechanicals on that roof. So the renovation of the existing building and the costs that we have for the new addition do include taking care of the flat roof sections and providing a new roof. And that new roof would have a 30-year, no dollar limit warranty to the town. The no dollar limit warranty means it's coming from the manufacturer, and you're relying on the manufacturer giving you that warranty. So even if your roofing contractor was to go out of business, you're relying on the manufacturer of the roof product to remain in business, and they would have a certified roofing contractor who would come out within that 30 years at no cost to perform any repairs on that roof. For flat roof, that's about the best warranty you can get in the industry right now, is 30 years. Well, asphalt shingle roofing would typically last longer than 30 years. But 30 years on a flat roof is an industry accepted maximum. So at $4.8 million, we have only slightly altered the plan. And slightly altered is we evaluated on the plan where we had the new addition at a slight diagonal to the existing building. I've walked the site and I've looked at the apron approach where the bays are now a little closer to the existing building. And I feel that walking the site and looking at the survey, you kind of get two different opinions of whether that apparatus bay needs to be twisted from 90 degrees to the existing building. We feel it doesn't need to be twisted, and that was my conclusion standing on the site and not looking at a plan. So we've taken the rotation, the slight rotation out of the plan, but we have not eliminated the scope of the remaining areas of new construction. We are still maintaining renovations as proposed to the existing building. The existing apparatus bay, we don't have a lot of scope that's changing in that other than a new roof. So there's limited funds being extended to the existing apparatus bay. We're going to maintain funding, though, for renovations of existing space within their administrative area, their day room area, and a classroom area. If we then move to the police department project budget worksheet has $5,528,620, and that's the number that we had presented back in January. As far as the commitment for the project from the town of Norfolk, that includes renovations to the main floor of Sharon Avenue, and that includes the construction of an upper deck, two stairs, and an elevator to get to the second deck. The second deck being primarily mech space and training classroom space, and then associated site costs. A couple things have happened since we met last on the police department side. One of them is we have had conversations through CDR McGuire with DPW. And talking with DPW on both of these projects, police and fire, they have indicated a willingness to assist with doing installations. Obviously, they need a funding source to buy materials, but once the materials are purchased, the DPW has expressed a willingness to do some installations with their own forces. Now, that's been done on other projects. We're currently doing that in Barre, Massachusetts. We just completed that same concept in Brookfield, Massachusetts. And the ability for the DPW to do limited site work can all be done without having to pay a prevailing wage rate for labor. Anything bid out to contractors competitively, it would be under a prevailing wage rate obligation to any laborers that are not direct owners of the company. Anybody they have to pay wages to have to be paid under prevailing wage. Not so with town staff. If they're doing it on town property, you have the ability to work alongside the contractor and do installations. And we have to continue to have discussions with DPW to find out, where's the dividing line between what they can do, their sources of labor, their ability to devote labor. But it's a conversation that was positive in the sense of there's a willingness to assist. So that's one positive that we're going to continue to work alongside them as we continue to develop the projects. The second is the meeting that's been held with the MEC Board of Directors and Operations Board. And the only reason I bring it up is because, for me, I have one building, two clients. And I need to make sure that both clients, being the town of Norfolk and Metacomet Regional Dispatch, both of them have a plan that they feel is viable and ones that they can recommend. That's where I have to balance the project. And to balance the project, I'm here to report and pleased to report that I feel that the MEC the Operations Board has reviewed the plans, and I feel they're in a position where they're going to be recommending the plan to their Board of Directors, but that's a meeting that's still scheduled to be held. But if that does happen, now we have a main floor that the police department has seen and endorses, along with a second floor plan that the Regional Dispatch Center has understood and endorses. So that's, for me, a big milestone in the project, because that has to happen. And I feel it is happening. And in that, because we only have $760,000 of construction on the upper deck, the remaining funding that's required for the second floor build-out would be from that agency. And so we'd be working with that agency to take care of what additional funding's required to get that done. In addition to hard costs, both Andrew and I have reviewed the soft costs, because we can't forget about anything with this project. It's a total project budget of $14 million. So we've included the land acquisition of Sharon Avenue, and we've allocated all of the additional anticipated funds to get to a soft cost total. The soft cost numbers are typically looked at as allowances. We have not signed a contract yet, but once we sign a contract, it goes from an allowance to an encumbered cost. I don't think anything on these soft cost lists yet are encumbered costs. They're to be encumbered, but we've put numbers in here that we've, based on historical precedent, we feel that these budgets are sufficient in a general sense for allowances, such as data and technology at $200,000. You can ask me what's included with that. Data and technology, it's an allowance, but you will need certain data systems in these buildings. Under the hard costs, we're installing telephone wiring, for instance, but we don't have a telephone system to plug into. We are wiring the building for data, but we're not sure what you have for a network to plug into. So some of those systems, telephones and data, and if you have a training room, AV equipment, we know there's going to be some desire to put some audiovisual technology into some of these rooms. But we have not selected, or we're not the ones under contract to select those items. If it's under soft costs, you would be seeking another designer, another source of information to get those purchased. FF&E is basically, it's an allowance based on historical data on cost per square foot for furniture. But we're not saying that we've selected those items yet or have a list to purchase. If there are any questions on what some of these soft costs are, I'd be happy to describe them further. Utility company back charges, for instance, the contractor will be working along with the utility companies to bring power into the building, bring gas into the building, but the utility companies will also charge you for their services. We do not have the general contractor carrying that cost within their bid, because we feel the best solution for you is to pay it dollar for dollar. Don't have the contractor guess and put an allowance in there that's too high. And that's what they do. They would guess high. So if the utility company has a bill to the town for their services related to the project, you just pay the amount. So that's what the allowance is for. And finally, the last bucket is contingency. It's one contingency for the entire project, but this contingency is about 7.5% of hard costs. It's not just a hard cost contingency, though. If you find that you're in a point in the project where you need or want to buy more furniture to offset some allowance in a soft cost, it's your contingency. It's not allocated for any specific purpose other than it's yours for your committee's review and disbursement. So I feel confident that the budgets that have been proposed compared to the schematic designs that have been presented, I'm hoping you can feel comfortable approving this project to go into the next phase, which is called design development. When we drafted a contract for the town, we're assuming that the schematic design is done. We assume that schematic design was at a point where we could go to the town for appropriation, approve the funding, and schematic design are the plans that you've seen. Now we've aligned it better with the budget. And design development phase for us means that we now engage all of our consultants, because we're responsible for the entire project as far as structural engineer, civil engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. All of those are consultants to us. So within our contract, what you're paying us also pays for all those consulting services that come with us. And that's when they start to look at the project and layer on a lot of additional information. They'll look at the Sharon Avenue building and they'll determine the best structural solution to put the second floor in it. And then they'll have a structural grid. We've assumed that. They'll all of a sudden start to size it. Mechanically, you'll have options on different way to heat it, cool it, temperature controls. We haven't had those conversations yet. That all comes when we get to this design development phase. So I've done a lot of talking and apologizing, so if there's any questions that you have now on either what the plans currently look like or the revised budget worksheet looks like.
Anybody have any questions? Jim?
I'm comfortable with your numbers. We've had a chance to go through those. I'm still a little confused on the fire station design because we've got 3 different plans. And I know you said you're comfortable financially in, this is the plan that we've been working off of.
Correct.
What you're saying is that this is going to get straightened, and so it's just a small triangle that comes off of this?
Correct.
Or are you talking about going to this other plan that we worked off of as well? And less space added in between. I'm just confused which one you're talking about. That takes care of my question.
This is the plan that we're proposing with that budget.
Okay. So you just took the triangle out?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the coal plant.
I can throw this one away then. No, this is not the coal
That was
plant.
not the coal plan.
That is that
it's
plan.
All right.
Still showing these spaces on the side. So you've been able to retain that area that was in the original plan and still do it within the costs.
Yes, because, and to explain further, the new addition, construction costs at 2.527,
Yep.
that was the same number we had for that plan. We've just straightened it to the road.
Right.
But for funding purposes, the new addition's always been funded to that scope of the project.
That's what I thought
Right.
was the plan all along. So I'm glad we're back on that page.
Didn't significantly change the construction number. We're still funded at that new addition number. Where we look to supplement was in the renovation of the existing building. But we were always carrying the addition to be that scope of work.
Okay.
And
That was my only question.
we're still going to renovate the existing office space of the current facility. All right.
At over $1 million now budgeted for renovations to the existing building.
All right.
So just to explain, So Brian had sent me this budget. Obviously, we've met outside of this meeting. We talked about, in my meeting minutes packet, page 4 was the budget I put, which is very similar to Brian's. Also, on page 3, there is an overall schedule I put together. So I think, you know, the main focus, and Jack and I are working on getting Brian a contract. And that's the main focus, and keeping the design going, and that hasn't stopped. We've met and had very successful meetings outside of the last meeting on January 25th. And I did some overall dates. The plan is to hopefully be out to bid by the end of this summer, bid the project, and get a general contractor on board this fall, and hopefully have the police go live November 1st of 2017. So I've put some dates. This is a very proactive, but I think realistic if we can stay on schedule. And then it gets into the fire department and renovations and an overall project completion of July of 2018. So it would basically be 2016, a good chunk of design, move into the police station construction, get the police moved into the building, November 1st, plus or minus of 2017, and get going on the fire renovations. And I think both projects, although it's one overall, they're both equally as important, the fire and the police, but I think we need to stop moving in the police direction and developing the design for the police station, and then the fire station will follow. We've talked outside of this meeting. I don't think there's much we can do with both departments in the current building. It's just logistically too much, and procurement-wise not going to work to do both at once. But, and I think that's the plan, to get Brian's contract signed, and I show signing it by today, February 22nd. But it is in the works, so hopefully when we come back, not hopefully, but by the time we come back in a month or so, whenever the committee would like to meet again, we'll have Brian a contract, and he's getting, like he said, his consultants on board, and we're moving along in the design development and starting to talk details of the police station. So, and I also, I put in, like Brian mentioned, I had some brief conversations with the DPW. They're optimistic. Obviously, they're going to do what they can do within their scope and their abilities. On my schedule, I show them starting work on April 4th of this year, if all can go as planned. So obviously, that's, you know, a month and a half away, and a lot of things may need to happen. But I would like, I can go ahead and I can call Dig Safe, and I can get them out there to the Sharon Ave site and have them paint out lines and stuff like that to get that process rolling, if the committee would like, and we can start, I can work with Bob from DPW and Jack and try to get that process developed.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's all right.
2 questions.
Thought you had to leave early.
You're the one that gave me this cold. Has the cost of the fire department, as you have so identified it, is that taking into account that it won't be bid for a year?
Yes. Yes, it does.
So you put a contingency in there for that?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And my second question, the soft costs that you're showing, those are what you anticipate being the actual costs without any of the savings reflected from the DPW, or are you building that into that number?
We have not backed out anything with the DPW out of this scope.
So whatever DPW does is a plus that comes off of that number?
That's right.
I know, I just wanted to be sure you hadn't adjusted it to reflect anything that you anticipated the
No.
DPW to do.
No, and that would get further broken out once we have determined what scope it is that they've identified could be done. And as I said, materials still have to be purchased out of these funds. They wouldn't be looking to buy materials out of any other fund.
So, and for instance, there's a legal fee allowance of $50,000 in the soft cost, which obviously, when we're not looking to need legal advice, but it's there just in case something does come up. But we're hoping that that goes away and is added into the contingency.
A lot of times there might be legal fees with bonding costs or the town's ability to borrow, so typically there's a number there, but it's your number. I mean, it's your allowance to utilize.
mean, we try and run this out of the legal budget unless we run into something really crazy.
So it's there.
Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, do you have any updated plans for the ones that, I apologize, I wasn't here at the last meeting?
I did not bring any at smaller scale, but these I can leave.
So you were saying that the asphalt shingles were fine on the existing fire department,
Yes.
yet when you do this addition, that's going to run right into that roof, I would think.
We'll have some transitions to make, not to impact all of the shingle roof that's there, but yeah, we'll have some transitions to make.
I think ultimately, not to cut you off, but I think would be to do the whole roof. It's nice that they're fairly new, but I think it's the right thing to, it's a minor portion of this major project, but I think,
I think you're going to end up reframing most of that section, and then that back door area has always been a problem. That's another area that's probably going to get reframed as well.
The back door issue we do want to address,
Yeah.
and we're going to do a new roof area on that. But where we have this proposed addition, the only high bay space would be the apparatus bays themselves. The space that we have for the locker rooms and the bunk rooms,
You drop it back down.
that's all low. We're not looking to go much higher than the existing flat roof anyway.
But it's going to be another flat roof, though, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to do that.
Yeah. And that's going to run into that, that pitched roof. Now, I know that you would put it at an angle so you had enough distance from the road, and now you've straightened it out, but you didn't jog it back any further. In fact, it's closer to there than the other side, so is there a reason why you don't feel as though you need to?
So you can see the transition to the street. We saw there was a bend here. If you're out on the street, you don't really notice it that much.
Yeah, it's pretty slight.
But we have we've only brought it and aligned it with the orientation of the existing building, but we have not brought it forward. We want some adequate apron space still in the front.
You can actually put the ladder truck out there, and that's going to be able to sit in the front parking lot without sticking out into the road?
The ladder truck would go right to the street.
So would it behoove us to move jog the whole thing back 10 feet so that it's... The only impact looks like that one brown room there, but,
Would be back here.
yeah.
It would probably be advantageous, given the fact that where the ladder truck presently resides, there's probably at least 15, if not 20 feet between the truck and the street at this point. So you definitely want at least a 10-foot minimum setback, I would say.
From the
Once-
street.
or Once you put that apparatus out there to work on it,
Yeah.
for safety, if nothing else. If we can do that, that would be good.
I think my recommendation for the projects is maintaining the schedule that Andrew just talked about, is the discussions that we have on the fire department are going to all be deferred until the police station's out to bid. And that's no disrespect for the fire department, or not trying to put a priority on these projects at all. But we're going to focus our attention and design work on the police station, on Sharon Avenue. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made there. What we're trying to propose today is the budgets for these projects, maintain them. Maintain the current budgets, live within the current budgets. We've set aside money for the police station. We've set aside money for the fire department. We've anticipated all your anticipated soft costs. You have a project contingency still left. To make this project flow, we need to put the fire department on a back burner until late summer. And the questions that you have are good questions. They should be addressed. They will be addressed. But I think the time to do that, I mean, and just logistically, is going to be when that project goes into design development phase, and that's going to be late summer.
First of all, very professional of you coming in this afternoon to offer your apology from last meeting, certainly well accepted from the fire department's perspective. Question of moving forward is, with the budget, is that budget going to take care of all of the renovations needed in that existing area between the existing apparatus bay and the new construction? Just so we have clarification for our people, that they're aware of that. I think that moving forward, obviously, the fire department came back in with a revised project on the plan in terms of trying to make sure that we had adequate funding to move the project forward, and we did that within that realm, and certainly with the input of George, Jack, and Jim. And our people have spent a considerable amount of time working off of that revised plan, the draft that we had, Jamie particularly doing a number of different renovations to it in terms of how things work. Certainly what we're seeing here today returns all of that square footage into play and gives us the flexibility to have a facility that's going to meet our needs moving down the road. So I think we're in much better stead today than we were last meeting. Certainly appreciate your help.
You know, I appreciate what you're saying, Brian. I just thought that when we're in this stage of the project, that generally we see floor plans and elevations of those, of that project. And, you know, every change that you make to that's going to make a dollar value, change. And generally, at this stage of the game, getting the floor plan correct is number one, and getting the elevation would be number two, and then moving on to, you know, if we're going to start the police station first, then concentrate the efforts there. But I don't think it's unreasonable to get the floor plan and the elevations correct at this stage.
What we know about the police station and its budget is just what we know about the fire department and their budget. They're both schematic at this point. They're both going to go through a design development stage, construction document phase, and both of them are going to make decisions. If we continue to make decisions, we just need to know that decisions we're making are still supported within the budgets that we have. So if we're going to have one project go into design development, we want to track that project and get that project out to bid as soon as possible. If we're tracking both projects through a design, development, construction document phase at the same time, I think we're going to impact the schedule on the police department going out as soon as it can. And it's a time element. If the budgets are established for both projects and we know we're living within those budgets, that's why I'm always a proponent to say the best time to get something out to bid is the earliest time you can get something out to bid. Time doesn't help us putting off the project any later than we have to. So that's the only reason, as far as the schedule, is if we can devote the effort that we have on the police side within the budget that you've established, and then we're going to turn our attention to do the same thing with the fire station. In my opinion, that is going to work for both projects. Without making one project feel like it's secondary to another, it's not. It's just a sequencing. We will be at points where we're going to make decisions on the roof and the elevations and the fire department and all of that. We have to be. But you as a committee need to direct me whether you want to see those now or whether you want to see those when the time comes, according to what we're proposing. We can do
So
each.
in my opinion, that you start your plan with a completed floor plan and a completed elevation, you know, a front elevation. You don't have to do the whole building, but, you know, first. And then you say, okay, now we're going to work on the police station. We're going to move forward and have the complete drawings done on that first. And then we'll take what we've already accepted on the fire department side and move forward on that. But where it's just open-ended, I don't, that's just not the way I would do it. But, you know, I'm one vote. I'm not even a vote here. All I am is just, you know, putting in my 2 cents here, and you know.
There are elevations on the police side that we still have to develop too.
I know. I'm saying for both of these.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were contracted to do first. Is, you know, floor plans and elevations, and frankly, I haven't seen a finished one on either end. So that's. I'm just expressing that.
I think ordinarily, I'd go along with Bob in terms of concurrency of project, but, you know, I think that there's a bigger picture that we have to look at, and that's the Regional Dispatch Center, which I've talked about since the project's infancy, and, you know, given the fact that it's within the police department, I think that's the impetus that we need to go, and I think the assurances that have been voiced here in terms of establishing budgets and living within the budgets, I think give each party, both police and fire, the assurance that as the project unfolds, that, you know, dollars will be there to finish each project. So again, my position would be, you know, to support it. I think, you know, the argument could clearly be made if we were two separate clients moving forward, it's not an issue, and you don't need to talk concurrency. But in this issue, you know, I support moving along in that direction.
Yeah, I think we should just get full steam ahead on the police station, and because that's the first thing we gotta get out of the way.
It's very important,
I
very
agree.
important.
And I think to date, not to cut anyone off, but we have a contract with Brian to do a feasibility study, which has obviously been done and gone to vote and passed in January, and we move forward. Like currently, I show the fire design to start in October to October of this year. So really start to ramp up the details. Now, I agree that there needs to be elevation, and so we're still finalizing a contract for Brian coming out of the gate here, so I think if we move focused on the police, like you say, with the Metacomet involved, and then start the fire later this year. Not that we can't talk about it, but
It gives us the opportunity to digest the plan in its entirety and, you know, and come up with any alternates that we'd be looking at. And then to some of the things that we've talked about with Jack and Jim in terms of, you know, putting the building together so that the least amount of cost goes into the utility aspect of it that we can as we move forward.
That's a good point. The budget that's been established was based on this, but it doesn't mean this has to be the final solution as long as we don't impact the budget. The final solution may be something that's different and less expensive than this. And that's fine with us, as long as we know that the $4.8 million is what we have to spend on that project. We want to deliver an end result that meets the needs. I think that the conversation from the last meeting, unfortunately, took a direction that I did not intend it to take, and that was thinking that we were not able to meet the needs of the fire department. I'm here today to say, yes, we are here to meet the needs of the fire department, and we're intending to do that.
That should certainly quiet any discord in the community.
And lower some relative blood pressures as well.
Indubitably, yes.
Anybody else have any questions?
One thing I always kind of worry about the soft costs, especially the furniture and the data and technology, I guess, in this case. I don't know, if, Andrew, you've looked at, if you've got some experience with some other similar projects, that you might be able to just give us some.
yeah, and that's what I generated a lot of these. So out of the last meeting, I made this budget sheet, which is very similar to Brian's, and Brian sent me this on Saturday night, just a few days ago, and
Note
they're
that
very
Saturday.
so very, very similar, and I did base these the best I could with, I mean, printing and bidding expenses, things like that, all on past history, testing. Obviously, we're going to need some testing on compaction and things like that. I don't think we have to test everything. The general contractor will own, materials and workmanship and all that, but definitely site work and things like that. We should do testing and compaction tests and any issues that we may come across when we have a shovel in the ground. But I am confident with these and with the project contingency that if need be, we can move some of the contingency into the furniture and things like that. But
Our historical data on that, Jack, is about $10 a square foot for furniture. If you're looking at the fire station, you can't go $10 a square foot across their apparatus base. They don't need furniture. But if you take their administrative areas at $10 a square foot, and you take the police department at $16,000, Historically, for FF&E budget on the police end would be about 160,000. So we're showing FF&E at 215.
Okay.
So it's 100, the split would be about 160 going on the police side, and the remainder going at the fire station side. That averages out about $10 a square foot.
And I'm not saying anything is wrong, I just hate to get to the end of the project and not have any money for furniture. You know, if we could have claimed.
Especially since Polaroid's giving it all away now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, we built this building without any new furniture, which was great, but we have, I just know that, and people did a great job, probably Ernie may have been involved in that, I don't know, but, you know, we got a lot of good furniture, but I'm not sure we're gonna have that luck again. And I know that your furniture at these down there now is pretty crappy, so there's not a lot of reasons.
Some of it's 55 years old or better, you know.
It doesn't
Almost
move.
as old as, oh, no, not even close.
Much older. They didn't have metal back then.
Which is why our moving expenses and relocation costs are only 15,000, because we're not anticipating moving that furniture.
A lot to move.
You probably need to put in a cost for a dumpster. It'd be probably more
Yeah,
appropriate.
we need dumpsters, and we might need to move some paper, but that's about the moving.
That's great.
So I think out of this meeting, Jack and I will continue working on finalizing Brian's contract. I'll continue talks with DPW, and I can be safe and have them mark some things out at the police station, and eventually we can do that at the fire as well. And then continue to meet more detailed outside of this meeting with the chiefs and Bob and whoever else would like to be involved and start to dig into this police station decision.
Mike.
Just a quick comment, and I'm all for pushing forward as fast as we can with site work and getting DPW involved.
Yep,
I don't know if it's a little premature for dig safe. I mean, I think we have to have some level of plan development to see what exactly the site work needs to be, whether it's utility work, we're talking earth moving, I'm not sure what the plan is, but
Right.
the civil drawings need to be brought up to some level of design development in order for us to know what the site work needs to be.
Right.
Send someone out there.
go ahead, Brian.
And we don't have them under contract yet.
Right.
I just figured with dig safe, they might tell us a few things that we may or may not know are in the ground there, that would be helpful.
That's fine.
In the
It's-
design, yep.
It's only valid for 30 days.
Right.
So, you know, by the time we're digging, we have to call them again. If the purpose is to have them mark stuff so we know where it is,
Yep.
help Brian and the surveyors put the base plans together, then fine, but
Right.
not for the purposes of actually constructing anything at this point. I don't think.
Between now and October, can we continue doing our thing as far as maybe inventorying our questions, anything that we're looking at the plan, and funnel it through you, and then back on however you want to handle that? That way we'll
Oh, through Mr. Lehan as long as he's here.
No, funneled through me.
Well, I think moving forward,
Survived
we'll
the
set
day.
up weekly or bi-weekly meetings as more operational and detailed, and come back to the committee and report our findings monthly, or,
Yeah.
and if we need to meet more than monthly, we can definitely do that. We can always post a meeting 48 hours out if need be. Otherwise, we can really get into the details outside of this meeting and report back to the committee.
All right, so you're going to work on the contract, Jack?
Yep, attorney's got it, and then we'll just have to finalize the number.
All right. So, once we get that finalized, we in agreement, we'll move forward with the design phase,
Design development?
for the police station.
Yeah. I was gonna have the selectmen sign that contract.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I didn't know, I mean, so the selectmen are going to be approving all the bills, not this committee?
No, I don't think, no, I don't think so.
No? Okay. But the selectmen, they're
I
going
think just sign the contract.
They're gonna
I was
sign
just
the
gonna have
We
that
signed
in
the contract,
Okay.
but this
But
this
the-
committee went over, it's, my understanding is this
Yes.
committee is the oversight of this whole project.
It is.
Yeah, I think that's the way the bylaw is, yeah.
Yeah, not us, not Board of Selectmen.
So we're approving the actual expenses then, okay, good.
Did you bring some Those, we talked a little bit about.
No, there was some that have come through. I don't have any on me. The way they've been doing it, I think just get sent to you, correct? But going forward, we can start that process to bring them to the meetings, et cetera. But there's no billing issues currently, just getting Brian a contract and starting to get into some details.
So we need to finalize the contract,
Yep.
which she can do fairly quickly, and then is the plan to have back to us in 30 days the design for the police station? Is that, I mean,
Check the,
Well, yeah, like I show a schedule of,
About 40 days for
40
design
days.
development?
and like I said, I think this is a realistic schedule. I tried to be as proactive as possible, but I think we meet outside this meeting, either weekly or bi-weekly, with the chiefs and more on an operational level, and we'll come back monthly and report to the committee. If that's good with the committee, and if we need to meet more or issues come up, then I think we can post a meeting. And
I found that monthly updates seem to be appropriate, and whether we're at a end of a phase or within a phase, we can just update you on what we found and discovered in the last 30 days, which is pretty typical.
All right, so when do we need to meet again?
well, according to your sheet, probably the first week in April.
April Fool's Day.
Well, that's a Friday. Haha.
I won't be here then.
The following week? You'll be here?
First 2 weeks in April, I'll be in Utah.
Utah. Why don't we meet in Utah?
Come on out.
I know the second week in April, I'm not available, so,
Is it possible to meet that last Monday in March?
yes.
that's what I was thinking, in March, and we can, yeah,
Was that 3/28, is it?
you are correct.
Yep. Because I'm flying out on the 29th, that's why I know that.
And yeah, so the 28th at 4, and I think
Okay,
there's a lot and a ton of details to be vetted out at this point, so early on in the project, but it's exciting. It's, at the end of the day, we're going to have a new police facility and a fully renovated fire facility. It's just going to be a bit of a process to get to that point, but inch by inch, we will get there as we start digging into the design.
all right.
And we meet tomorrow with the board of the directors for the regional, so we're going to present the final plan and hopefully move forward with what the dispatch has going on the second floor.
I guess,
Police
Mr.
station.
Chairman, a procedural question for your committee is, how much information do you need to know about the regional project? I know, as I said earlier, I have 2 clients, 1 building, so I'm reporting to both. I'll have knowledge on both, but I don't know how much you really need to get involved, or do you want to get involved on what's happening on the upper floor, or it's kind of
Yeah,
more of
we'd
a
like to be
question.
informed, let's put it that way, as to what exactly, I know there was some questions as to exactly how much of the scope of the project they were going to fund.
That's still a conversation that's going on
Right.
on that side.
So, if we just updated on those conversations,
The next application for grant monies on the regional side, I think, is April, end of April, that we need to get to a deadline for that portion of the project.
yeah, Mike,
I'm just curious of just the logistics of how you're bidding the 2 projects. Is the fit out of that space going to be included as part of our project, and we're just going to have provisions for splitting the costs out so that it gets reimbursed appropriately?
That's part of the head scratching that we've been doing. And we're going under the assumption that we're going to bid 1 project, and we may have to identify an alternate so the contractor can assign a number and a value to the portion which is regional.
Yep.
So the fit out of the second floor, for instance, but it's not just the fit out of the second floor we're talking about for funding. The portion of the generator could possibly be funded. That's where it gets a little gray. It's easy when you say, just fit out of the second floor, give us a number. But utilities to the building, emergency generator, tower construction,
Yep.
I mean, we need to I think, get a little bit more information as to how the state wants to be comfortable with that. And bidding it as one project already has been a conversation with the Board of Directors on how
Makes
this,
more sense.
In
I'm
the-
just curious how you.
how the state's going to accept that. I guess it's still a question that's got to be
In
worked out.
Sorry, pardon, Brian, but the town administrator from Plainville has had conversations with Deb Anderson at the Attorney General's office, and she mentioned that it should be fine to bid it all under the Norfolk Police, as long as there's some sort of agreement with the Metacomet in Norfolk. So we've had discussions, and it'll come up tomorrow, that the Metacomet will probably be engaging in some sort of, agreement with the town of Norfolk to move forward so that we can bid it as one. And I think it makes the most sense for all towns involved, the state 911, I think everyone benefits from, to be able to bid it as one project.
Yeah, I just think it makes sense, just identify those items that are common to both uses and then assign a proportionate reimbursement, if you will, between the two entities so that they pay for a certain percentage if it's based on just pure square footage of the entire building. They pay for certain items and then you just handle it that way.
So I think if the Board of Directors for the regional moves forward with the current plan tomorrow, then next step would be to get an estimate from the estimator, and then we're going to compare that with the funding that we have gotten from State 911, and then go from there. And then with this new grant, get the application rolling, obviously if it exceeds the funding that's already been allotted over the last couple of years, so.
They'll award funding, I think it's July, so you'll know, the MEC will know what funding they have prior to putting it out to bid.
I know, as you're working on that grant, one thing we talked about a couple of years ago, and I don't think we ever finally resolved it, was the telephone system for the MEC, what it would be, and how that would work with all the other departments, not just our police department, but Cole, and then the other towns, both their police and fires.
Never came to
There
resolution.
was some concept of trying to have the MEC purchase a telephone system that would actually be servicing all the departments. So that would impact this project as well.
Correct, and I think I worked on the last grant with Darrell from Rentham, Darrell True, and obviously the state had given us 0 at that point because we still didn't have a location at that point. Now we have the location, and so we know more details. So if we move forward tomorrow, which I would imagine most likely we will, we can get,
Sure we will.
yeah, an estimate and compare it with the funding that's been available and request additional funding, in April or May of this year. And I know State 911 is very excited to have this happen. So,
Anybody else? All right.
Do we need to vote anything today, or?
The only approval that I would need is to proceed to design development phase for the police facility only. That gets us back to what we talked about with the schedule. If that's okay, then that would mean that the fire station project conversations would be put off to later.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
We already did that.
Yep, they already set the next meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Until
If you're happy.